Folks, hello again. Wile E. Coyote had a tough time of things, didn't he? Trying his best to chase down the roadrunner, but no matter how hard he tried or how smart he thought he was always a step or two behind. That bird was just too damn fast. It's a bit like the Fed chair trying to keep up with inflation. Whatever Jerome Powell tries, inflation keeps on speeding away. But there's a cliff approaching. It's called recession. The Biden administration knows it too. This week, GDP figures will be released, which will likely show a second consecutive quarter of negative growth. That's the technical definition of a recession. But you may not hear the government use the R word because it appears to be changing the rules. On the White House website, it asks, what is a recession? It says, while some maintain that 2 consecutive quarters of falling real GDP constitute a recession, that is neither the official definition nor the way economists evaluate the state of the business cycle. Based on these data, it is unlikely the decline in GDP in the first quarter of this year, even if followed by another GDP decline in the second quarter, indicates a recession. This is called spin, despite protestations to the contrary.
We're seeing a slowdown. We're likely to see some slowing of job creation, but I don't think that that's a recession. A recession is broad-based weakness in the economy. We're not seeing that now.
That's Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, who doesn't have the best record when it comes to economic forecasts.
But it wasn't just the president who got it wrong a year or so ago. I want to play for you what you said about inflation last year. Listen to this.
Is there a risk of inflation? I think there's a small risk, and I think it's manageable. I don't anticipate that inflation is going to be a problem, but it is something that we're watching very carefully.
Was it a mistake, Madam Secretary, to downplay this inflation risk?
I think I was wrong then about the path that inflation would take.
Inflation, as we know, is now running at 9.1% in the US, the highest in 40 years. To be fair to our American friends, we are in the same boat. During the pandemic, the Governor of Australia's central bank, Philip Lowe, reduced Australia's cash rate to a record low of 0.1%. But here was the real kicker. He went on to assure borrowers that cash rate would stay at that record low until 2024.
As I've said on previous occasions, the board will not increase the cash rate until inflation is sustainably in the 2 to 3% range.
So what did people do? With money so cheap, they took his advice. Took out mortgages beyond their means because they had a long time to get a head start and pay the debt down. The governor said this as recently as 6 months ago. Fast forward to now, inflation is heading towards 7%. The cash rate is at 1.35% and likely to pass 3% by Christmas. That's a few hundred, even a few $1,000s extra that people will have to find every month on the average mortgage. And that's on top of everything else that's becoming more and more expensive. None of this is easy, but we're talking about supposedly very smart people who are in charge of the national credit cards. They're pulling the economic levers, and we, the people, are having to pay for their mistakes. In fact, I put that question to our new Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, who, only a month into the job, announced a review of Australia's Reserve Bank last week. But he stopped short of any criticism. Lowe said interest rates would stay at 0.1% until 2024. The ANZ now believes the cash rate will be 3.35% by the end of the year. That is a staggering miscalculation, Treasurer. So what can you say to homeowners who took Lowe's advice and are now paying the price for his mistake?
Well, it's not the role of the Treasurer to defend decisions taken by the Independent Reserve Bank or the Governor. The Governor himself has explained the circumstances around that guidance that he gave and the language that he used. He's done that repeatedly.
What all this says to me is that governments, to a lesser extent, but more so central banks around the world, are living in a different reality. But the people ultimately get the final say. Remember when James Carville said, "It's the economy, stupid." While international factors are driving things at the moment, people often make judgments by what's in their wallets or what's in their purses. That was a factor in the demise of our former Prime Minister Scott Morrison. It'll be the same for Joe Biden too. New polls show almost 90% of states now disapprove of him. A CNBC survey has found Biden's overall and economic approval ratings have now hit record lows, lower than Donald Trump's worst ratings. It is going to be a bloodbath in November as the Roadrunner laughs in the distance. Thanks for watching. To support this channel, please like, share and subscribe below, and I'll see you next week.